My name is Julie Pearson Littlefender with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at Oklahoma State University, and I'm interviewing Amos Harjo Jr. For the Chilocco Alumni Association here at Chilocco Indian School outside of Newkirk, Oklahoma. Amos, you were a staff sergeant with the 173rd Brigade, and your wife Michelle is here too. She may be adding some stories to the interview. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
I'm glad to be here today.
Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Holdenville, Oklahoma. I grew up in Calvin.
Okay.
And boarding school, Carter Seminary of Ardmore.
Okay.
And here at Chilocco. Then the military came on.
What did your folks do for a living?
Both are deceased.
Were you raised by grandparents a little bit?
Oh, when I was
way back.
Way back then, okay.
Yeah, way back.
What did they do?
Uh-huh.
My stepdad was a farmer, and my mom was a home mom.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
A bunch. At one time there was probably 13.
Uh-huh.
Then a set of twins passed on. Then another one later on, and many more later.
Were you kind of one of the older ones?
I was the third to the oldest. My older sister passed away this year ago, July. And my oldest brother passed away about 29 years ago. And my younger brother passed away about 5 years ago.
11.
7. It's been about 7.
7.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's been...
Lots of siblings.
Yeah.
So were you around Creek language and culture growing up?
Nope. Remember when we was going to school, boarding school, they didn't allow that, so my mom was pretty upset with me when one day somebody talked to me in Creek, and I said, I don't understand. My mom disagreed, said, you do too. I said, no. I said, you sent me away from home at about 3rd grade or so, and so they didn't allow it. A lot of them did it, but I never did learn my language. Just the important ones. Humbug's J.
Yes. So what was one of the hardest adjustments you had to make in 3rd grade, I guess, going to boarding school?
Well, not that much really, because we went to public school.
Oh, you went to public school, didn't you? Okay.
And that was that way up until the 9th grade, and then once we come here.
Come to Chilocco.
Yeah.
Okay. What was one of the hardest adjustments you had to make here at Chilocco?
None at all. Didn't want to go home once you got here.
Good feeling to get here.
Get a lot of good friends, and yeah.
Did you come by yourself? Was there anybody else in your family that came, or?
Yeah, I have my older brother, older sister, younger brother.
We're already here, the older ones.
Well, yeah, the older ones were already here by the time I got here, and then my younger one came up after I left. And so.
What did you want to focus on when you were here in your studies?
My vocational at that time was masonry. So, in this building over here that you see when you come in, where it's falling in, at that one just above the doorway, there was we had to do some patchwork up there, and we was on the scaffolds. And as I would look down, the kids were changing classes. I'd move some of that mortar over to the side, and when they come out, I'd tap it and let it fall down on them. So that was kind of funny. Funny for me, not
funny
for them.
Funny for you, not for them. What's maybe another fun experience at Chilocco that kind of stands out for you?
Kind of funny.
No.
Funny
not
or
so
fun?
funny, but I remember there was one night, a bunch of the students from around Newkirk came up and invaded our football field.
Wow.
And it was the first time that seemed like the school was united, and we went down there and did some damage and got them off the property.
Chased them off.
That was fun to us.
Yes, that's right. Well, how about the food? How was the food here?
I liked it. I have no complaint. You get all you want.
Right.
I used to go to the milk counter and drink about 4 glasses of milk and then get 2 more to go to the table. So, yeah.
Great.
It was all right. I never had no complaint.
Was there any instructors here that stand out for you? Any of the instructors at Chilocco?
Coach Moore, and he was the main one, and Coach Presley.
Did you play football
Yeah.
when you were here?
And then my favorite teacher was a lady called Melba Jo Tuhimpa. And she took care of me, and she would, in her classroom, I sit here, and her desk would be right here to my left, and her purse would be sitting close. So I just get in there and get me some change. And my buddies see me do it, and they come back and try, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're getting some money for the canteen." She said, "You put that back." She said, "Well, Amos," she said, "That's Amos." So I had me $20 bill, and they didn't have nothing.
What did she teach?
Huh?
What did she teach?
English.
English, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, she did, she,
She watched out for you.
yeah.
So what level of school were you in? When you enlisted? Did you enlist or did you get drafted?
First 2 years, I volunteer draft. It's almost like, well, I wasn't drafted, I volunteered
You
draft.
volunteered.
2 years.
Was it with the National Guard?
No,
here at
regular
Chilocco? Okay,
Army.
regular Army, you volunteered first 2 years. Had you graduated from Chilocco already?
I got my GED in the Army,
Okay,
so I was in the 11th, but I went, and then I got my my diploma through the Army. And
okay.
took a lot of years because I was always moving, but I got it anyway, so I finally got it before I got out.
That's great.
Can I say one thing? He was, from pictures, my husband was very athletic. He liked track.
Oh, so you did track as well? Track, football?
Baseball.
Anything else? Baseball? Okay. All around.
Yeah.
Yeah. What made you decide to volunteer?
Volunteer work. I didn't like to work at home because all that was farming, and I didn't want those peanut fields guys. It's hard.
That's
Bucking hay was hard.
work, yeah.
So I said, I'll go military. It's a lot easier. To me, it was.
Well, how did your background at Chilocco help prepare you for military service?
Condition for me. It was because I was in track, and there's a 2-mile track south all the way around 2 miles, so that was a total of 8 miles.
Wow.
And then when we come in right here by the cafeteria, we just pull on in there, and it's still open for us track boys, so we'd go in and eat. And so that's mainly one reason, was constantly doing something. And so it wasn't hard to blend in once I got in the military, be able to stay up with everybody. And
Right. So where were you when you got your draft notice?
I didn't get no draft notice.
Okay.
I volunteered draft. I just went into the recruiter and said, I want to join up. They said, what? And I said, 2 years. So they said, be volunteer draft. And I said, okay, volunteer.
And then after that, did you just renew or?
After that, let me think. I got out of the service and I went back home and still nothing there. So I went to the recruiter in Ada and we talked and he said, we got this thing that we're putting together it's going to be 50, they're asking for 50 volunteers from Oklahoma to go airborne, and it will be made up or called the Sooner Airborne Platoon. And he said, would you like to be a part of it? And I said, might as well. I said, I'm scared of height, but I'll try it.
Oh, wow.
So I volunteered. I mean, once I went back in my second tier, let's see, I had to go through basic again at Fort Bliss, Texas, and then I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana for AIT, and then went on to jump school. No, I went to NCO school at Fort Benning, Georgia, and then to jump school, and then Ranger training, and then we went to Fort Gordon, Georgia. That's where I met her. And we pushed troops, almost like a drill sergeant, there at Fort Gordon, Georgia for 8 weeks. And then from there, we got orders to go to Vietnam again, and that's when I became a member of the 101st Airborne Division.
Okay.
So,
Well, we'll go back maybe to your first basic training real quick. What was the biggest challenge that you ran into first time you did basic when you volunteered?
okay, that was with my basic, or just
Just your basic training, the first time you volunteered for the Army, they sent you to basic training?
Basic training, it was a breeze, it was nothing hard.
Because you were so conditioned.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the officers or instructors you had that stood out?
No.
And then after that, you had all of this additional, talk to me maybe a little bit about once you joined the Airborne, you had to do basic at Fort Bliss. Were there any challenges you encountered there?
Still in good shape.
AIT, what did you specialize in Louisiana?
Infantry.
Infantry,
11
okay.
Bravo, they called it, 11 Bravo.
Okay. Were there many other Indian soldiers in that group?
The way I understand it, they didn't want to get too many Indians in one outfit.
Afraid they'd show everybody outside, huh?
They're kind of crazy when they get too many together. So everywhere I went, it seemed like I was the only Indian in there.
Oh.
But they said, we're glad we just got one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. MCO training you did at Fort Benning, is there any standout memories you have of that?
Let's see, Ranger training. The only thing I can remember about that was that we had to, once we went through that river crossing, and it was during the winter and ice was floating down the river, and we had to cross it with our clothes on. Coming back across, we come back with just our shorts on. It was our clothes wrapped up in our poncho and bring it back across. So if you survived that, you had the rest of it was easy, but just getting there and back was
Right.
So, and then let's see, that's.
How about jump school? Since you weren't crazy about heights anyway, what was jump school like?
That was a challenge. They almost had to throw me out of there. I almost pulled one of the jump masters out of that tower when they said go. I reached back. Luckily, he was strapped on, so I couldn't pull him out. And they were going to get me when I went back. They said, send him back up. I went and before everybody, and they've got more sergeants up in there. They said, we'll get him. And there was a sergeant down below, where's my first sergeant, his name was Harjo, so he'd call me over and talk to me. He said, they waiting for you up there. He said, I'm gonna tell you, he said, it's not hard. He said, you get to the gate, I'm gonna get to the door. That sergeant will tell you, sound off, you sound off with your name and your number on your hat. Then he'll say go, and you just leap out. So when he said that, that's all I did. That's all I think. I did what he said. And I left them guys. They thought they were gonna have fun and throw me out with it, but messed them up.
They didn't even, ruined their plan. So you were jumping out and then pulling that cord, I guess, that parachute cord.
Well, we hook up. Once we start making our first jump, we hook up.
I see.
We always hooked up, and then once you went out, and then they pull a chute out. But
Right.
I landed my first jump. I sprung my ankle, and they said, "Well, you can get recycled, heal up, and recycle." And I said, "Nope, I'm gonna go through it." So I had to stay up with them because we ran just better where we went. And they said, "If you don't make it, you're gonna be recycled now." So I didn't stay up with them, but I didn't drop back.
But you hung in with a sprained ankle.
So,
Wow.
And I had to more or less jump with one leg when I landed. And that I was supposed to make 6 jumps, but I made 5 jumps, but I made 6 because on one of my jumps I landed on top of somebody's chute. And that guy looked up at me, and I was looking through that apex hole. And he said, "Get off of my chute," because my chute was collapsing his chute.
Oh.
So I had to crawl over, and I looked down, and I had to jump again.
Oh my God.
Then I went, because the air was, my chute was going this way, and then when it went out, we had to deflate again. So
Right. Oh my God.
that was something, but that wasn't the only time it happened. Later on, and during my jumping, I did it again. So I was always getting 2 jumps in somewhere.
And so that was from the plane, right? That
Airplane,
landing
yeah.
on it. Yeah. Wow.
But I still didn't overcome it. I was still scared of height, but I still jumped. So
Well, that's what they say courage is, right? Courage is when you are afraid and you still do it. Well, tell me about meeting Michelle at Fort Gordon.
we had a friend. His name was Joe Kelly from here in Oklahoma, down for the Seminole. Bowlegs. Anyway, I got to know him. His company was right across from us, and somehow or another we got talking, and then he asked me he's going to come by and get me when we had a meal at his house. So, and she was there helping him with his kids. That's where, and plus she was going to school there in Georgia. So.
Oh, okay.
And so that was how we met.
That's how you got acquainted.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering if Michelle had been affiliated with the military, but okay, that's neat. What did you guys do for entertainment when you went off base? Had you ever been in Georgia before?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went there once for I think it was another one of my trips to there for AIT training.
Another training.
Yeah.
So going off base, what impressions did it make on you?
They didn't want us there. We're too mean. Because we weren't no good.
Man.
Even in Vietnam, some of those posts, they see us coming up, and 173rd are they see your patch, and they see that it's the 173rd, they'll close the gates. Because we were going on the Air Force base. And once they see that, they close up. So, no, y'all can't, not here.
So was that just the reputation that paratroopers had?
Yeah, they get rowdy. Knowing that the Air Force got easy jobs, and you call them wimps, and so, and they want them to get to feeling good, they want to whip up on them, and so they said, yep, you guys can't come and do that. So no, the general don't want y'all here. You know, Go down the road, we'll bring it to you.
Wow. That's amazing.
But, yeah.
So you mentioned returning. I think you said going back to Vietnam. Tell me when you first went.
My first tour was with the Hawk Missile Unit out of Fort Bliss, Texas.
Okay.
And during that tour, that was during my first 2 years of service. So
So the war was already going on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And so after my 2 years were up, I went ahead and got out. I stayed out for maybe less than a year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when the 101st Airborne came up.
Mm-hmm.
I was with I was in one outfit when I was with the 101st, and then I 101st 17th Cav Air Rifle A Troop come out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So I was asked if I would like to, or I was directed to. They didn't ask. They said, "You going?" Because they need sergeants there that's old, that's been out and been here a while.
They had some
Help
experience.
train them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're coming in the country and they're going to train for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of us old timers that took over each squad, and so we took them out. Supposed to have been 2 months, and we finished training in 1 month, us.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, okay, these guys are ready to go. Says, I don't know about them others, they're not getting good ratings, so they're gonna have to go 2 months. He said, but these people are ready to go.
That were under your
Yeah, under
command.
Yeah.
You were training.
So once they gave that out, it wasn't long after that they got one of the biggest orders of my career there was that, and these guys had never seen combat.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so gung-ho that it was getting dark and there was an element on the mountain, and they were down to like 6 men.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, if we don't come, we may not be here in the morning. So the chopper pilot said, y'all go back and check with your squad, see what they want to do. And they all said, yes, go. So I said, okay. And it was getting dark. So he said, I'm going to have to take you in. Dark. It's going to be pitch black. He said, but they're going to guide me in. And he said, once it gets so low, he said, I'm going to have to tell you to jump. So, and that ended up being called Hamburger Hill. This was Ashaw Valley that we went into.
I see.
It was one of the biggest ones there. There were some big ones, but that was the one that I was involved with the Hamburger Hill situation. And it was during that exercise, I had 10 men in my squad that I was responsible for, and out of all of us, I was the only one that come out that wasn't wounded. And I never can understand it. I said, here, I was the biggest guy in the squad, up front, and 2 guys in front of me got hit, and the rest of them back to the right of me, they all got hit. And I tell Michelle and the others, I said, there was a little tree right in front of me, about so high. And I said, to this day, I can still see that little tree, and it was getting shot in half. And then bullets kicking up right in front of me. But they just, and to me, I said, I looked to my left because I knew the dirt was here. And I looked and I could see those muzzle flashes coming out from the tree line there, about from here to the window. So my weapon was empty, so I got my RTO's weapon. And I turned it and put it on automatic, and I sprayed that area where they was coming from. I didn't hear no more, so I gave him his rifle back and got mine. And I think at that time, the sergeant that was supposed to be in charge of that squad, I was just their assistant, to help guide him. Well, he never would come forward. I kept tell him, I said, this is your squad now. You come up here and tell these guys. He said, I ain't coming up. I'm too short. I'm getting out when I get out of this. He said, I'm gonna put in my retirement papers. I don't want no more of this. He never been in combat, so. But he didn't want to come up and take control of his squad, so I just went on ahead.
You had to do it.
Yeah, and so I sent them all out, and I was telling her, I said I had to get my radio operator and put him on my back, and I crawled out. And those bullets.
Because he was wounded.
And those, I could still, as I crawl out, you see bullets kicking up. And I said, oh man, I hope they don't come zero in. So it's luckily they were bad shots. I'm thankful for that.
Right, right.
But yeah, out of that little situation, I went back, got all the guys back, and then they sent another squad up, and they said, but Sergeant Harjo, you're gonna take them up. I said, they got a squad leader. He said, yeah, but they don't know where they're at. You do. And I said, I don't know about that. So he said, he said, are you refusing to go up? And I said, I'm not refusing. I said, I just don't want to go up. He said, and my buddy, he said, Harjo, he said, take us up. Get us out of sight of him. And he said, then I'll take my squad on up. He said, you just tell me how far up we got to go. I said, it's not far. I said, you heard it. And he said, I know. So I took him up there. I said, you go right up here and then right around the corner. I said, they're going to be there. They ain't gone. And sure enough, they was waiting for them. So. And out of that, got everybody out, and they called in a big element, another battalion. They come in and relieved us, and that mainly was our main job, to go in and maintain contact until we get relieved by a big company. We were just operating as a 40-man team.
I see.
And 4 squads, so. And once they come in.
And coming in by air.
Yeah. Once they come in and came up to where we were, well, we went down to the chopper pad and loaded up, and they took us back to our base camp. But all through that, we never lost anybody. Nobody was killed, a lot wounded. But the element that came in to relieve us, they was calling us names, wimp, and, you know, what's the matter, y'all can't handle it? And that wasn't our job. We were supposed to make contact, maintain contact until we relieved.
Right.
And that's this year.
And you had come in first.
Yeah, so, and on our chopper going back, we was listening to our radio, and they was already getting guys killed. And that's when it really escalated to a big old thing. That's why they call it Hamburger Hill, because after it was all over, you go to the top. And that's the meat laying all over, and that's why it was called Hamburger Hill. Yeah.
And of course you were married at that point. So that must have been, were you married the second tour?
No.
Not yet, okay. I was going to say, awfully scary.
It was after my third tour that we got, after my third tour was over, yeah.
Would you mind telling us just a little bit about the first one? I mean, that was the first time you'd been to Vietnam, was on the Hawk Missile
Hawk Missiles, yeah.
tour.
That was in,
right.
That wasn't much to it. We were just stationed at the,
Where
it was a missile unit that was set up to guard the air base.
Where was it located?
At Tonsanute Air Force Base at Saigon.
Okay.
And that's mainly where we did. We just pulled security.
You didn't have to see any combat that first tour. Gosh, so for that third tour, well, let's talk a little bit. So after that battle, Hamburger Hill, then how much more time did you have to spend on that second tour?
On my second tour after Hamburger Hill, we went back to base camp, and I had about 11 days to go.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then I just so happened a helicopter was flying over that place, and he seen the enemy coming back in. So they called us, and they said, okay, we got a mission in the morning, you gotta go to bed. So I went to my company commander, our battalion commander, and I told him the situation. I said, I only got about 10 days left. He said, well, you already done enough. He said, your squad leader, you think he's, well, can he do it? And I said, well, I'll talk to him once I leave here. He said, okay. He said, as of now, you're relieved, and you don't worry about going out no more. He said, you just stay back and enjoy it. Well, next morning, they got the operation order, and I went and told them specifically, don't you let these other quads, it's got old sergeants in them, take it. I said, don't be the first one. Well, what happened? He volunteered to be the first one. And they got the zap right off the bat. They were throwing grenades down the mountain, and he jumped the wrong way. He jumped right on one. So I know when that happened, my buddy was up there with him, and I thought maybe it was him that got killed. And a lot of us that were getting ready to process out, we made it back to our tents and grabbed our rifles and ammo, because we had another chopper going back up. And they told me, they said, it's not Sergeant Battersby, it's your squad leader that took over when you left. He's the one, so. But he didn't listen. He wanted to be, too gun-ho. And he was getting ready to go to Hawaii to see his wife and baby. And that's why I told him, I said, don't volunteer. Don't be like me. See, I was single and he didn't really care. And so I could take chances. I said, you got a wife and child, you need to be careful. So after that, I came back to the States. Stayed a while.
Did you go back home?
No, I went back to the North Carolina. I was with the 82nd Airborne down there.
Okay.
I stayed there for about almost a year, and my first sergeant of our company told me, say, Harjo, he said, I see in your eyes what you're going to do. He said, don't do it. He said, we had the football team for our company. He said, we had a lot of good guys, and he said, I don't want you to go. He said, wait till after football season's over, and then he said, you can go. Well, he wasn't going to let me put in paperwork at the company, so I went to the division headquarters and walked in, and the clerk said, what do you need? And I told him. He typed it up. He said, okay, we're getting orders in a little bit. So I went back to the company and just played along. And then next thing you know, they said, Sergeant Harjo, first sergeant wants to see you, and he's mad. So I went back and let him chew him, and then he said, okay. He said, you got 30 days leave, go home. Then you can go to Vietnam.
What made you decide to do a third tour?
This is a different story. There was a voice telling me that you didn't do nothing. Or you're going to be like your dad. He died an alcoholic and he was a deserter. That's how these voices were speaking to me. So to prove them wrong, I went again. And that was the 101st when I came back. It was still messing with me. So I went back to my third tour. And it was still there, but it's not like it used to be. But because said they couldn't kill me anytime during that 3 tours, so I said I was all right in a sense, but yet the enemy was still attacking me in my dreams that night. And it was trying to kill me and all that, so.
Sometimes, I've heard stories that the Viet Cong, sometimes they really wanted to get those, native vets, soldiers, it's because they knew they were good, often good sharpshooters or whatever, and I don't know if you had any experience with that, but.
Not really, because it was the same color and everything. So I never had no problem with them. As far as now with the Vietcong, yeah, we had a problem with them, but in the NBA. But those people that we messed with on Hamburger Hill weren't the South Vietnamese Army. These were the ones that were special trained from down from the north. Those who we tangled with. So they were some well-equipped soldiers.
Right. That's what I meant to say, Viet Cong. They saw, American Indian soldiers as a threat. But yet, like you say, same color, same situations that were more complicated than we thought going in,
Because there's a lot of natives who have that Oriental look,
And then, see, when I went back on my third tour, that was when I specifically went back because there was a sergeant that I had a fight with in North Carolina, there in Fayetteville, and he almost put my eye out. And so I was after him. They said he volunteered for Vietnam. I said, when did he leave? And they said, just not long, about a month or so. So that's when I put my orders in, and I didn't know, because when you go into that Repo Depot, they call it, that's where you go in, and they say, okay, 101st needs so many, and someone else needs so many. Well, I was just hoping that I would get sent to the 173rd, because that's where he went.
And you did get sent to 173rd?
Yeah. And when I got there, I went around and asking, and they said, yeah, he was here. I said, well, where is he at? Because my intention was I was going to get him. And they said, he got killed a couple of days ago. He said, he's gone. And I said, here, I volunteered to come over here to get him. Charlie did it for me.
Oh my goodness.
I told you we weren't no good. Yeah, but it was. They train you. We trained ourselves to be like that. We couldn't be going there and be no little wimp. We had to be tough and strong for our men that are under us. So we couldn't show no sign of weakness.
Right. If you were leading, Did you have enough supplies when you were over there all the time?
Yeah, we always had.
How about chow? How about food? Did you always have enough food?
Always, yeah. Or sometimes it takes them a long time to get it out to us. Like on the Thanksgiving, that thing been flying around 2 days trying to get to where we was at. So they finally got it to us.
Because you were under fire, or?
No,
they just couldn't find you.
They were going to other places too, but they were still carrying our Thanksgiving food. So when they brought it in one evening, we set up and they brought in our hot chow. And like I said, they had it a while. So when we ate it, it tasted real good. But about midnight, everybody was going out. You usually have to go out with buddy system. Huh? You have to take someone out there with you. It was like everybody was going, so CO, even our platoon leader had to say, well, you got to come get us in the morning. He said, oh, my men are sick. So they took us out. We thank the mess hall for that.
Exactly.
But it was bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was an experience.
Yeah. Did any entertainment acts come through while you were doing your tours? Did you see any shows or?
A couple of times, I can't remember who it was with, whether it was at 101st or, might have been 101st. We seen Bob Hope come through. That's about it. And even then,
did you enjoy that, or could you actually hear everything and see everything? Or?
Yeah, it was good. And but it got to the point where they had to put them far off from us, because once the GIs got buzzed up and everything, and they felt that those girls were acting too good for them, and they wanted to talk to them. When they got up on scaffolds and stuff, and they urinated on them.
Oh my gosh.
So they had to rush them off, get them on the chopper and get them out. So So they said, you guys can't go no more. They said, another time we got wrote off, so they got a show coming in, said, these people ain't coming. So.
Do you remember any pranks that were pulled, just when you were, any jokes or pranks that guys would pull, just in camp?
Prank?
Yeah.
Well, this one company next to us, they had a boy from New York that was always giving this one sergeant a hard time. And somehow or the other, the word got out that he was scared of Indians, because he said he's never seen an Indian, and he's just scared. So they said, all right, we got him.
We got it.
So they come over and said, Sergeant Harjo, they said, we're going to be walking over to this area where this boy's at. He said that he's scared of the Indians, so he said, you do just be you. So when I got over there, I started raising my voice loud and looking around, and I started towards him, and he started crying before I even got there.
Goodness.
And then after I left, they said, if you don't straighten up, they said, we're going to call him back over again. He said, no, please don't call him back. So they had his number.
They had his number.
He straightened up.
Oh, that's a great story. Did you ever write home at all or anything like that?
They had time, they said, okay, you just drop your family a note.
Mm-hmm.
And the C-ration boxes, so take a back of that C-ration, and you write your little note to your mom,
Oh.
your address, and then you put free on that left corner up there, or right corner.
Uh-huh.
Put free on it, and write your message that you're doing all right, and put it in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing go along with that, my sister was always seeing my letters come, it said free on it, so she was sending them letters somewhere, and she just put free on the corner. And it got sent back to the box, and they said, Katie, you got to put a stamp on it. She said, well, Shawnee don't. He just puts free and it goes through.
Oh, that's a great story.
And then I was sending him candy, chocolate, and he said we had to drink it. He said, it's hot over here.
Yeah, when I opened my packages, and looked, nothing but chocolate, so I just opened it up to the guys, and they just got it from hand and ate a little bit. And
Now, this was during the third tour, is that right? You were sending chocolate. You guys hadn't got married yet, but you knew you were dating, and okay.
I even asked him, do y'all have porta potties over there?
Did you get to talk by phone ever? Never. So, just by letter if you communicated.
mm-hmm.
So on your 30 days, the 30 days you had after the second tour, that was in South Carolina you spent those? Or did you actually come back to Oklahoma during your 30-day, between the second and the third?
Okay, on my 30-day leave before I went back to my third tour, yeah, I didn't have to come back, I just went straight from home to Vietnam.
Oh, okay, wow.
By way of California, I went out there and caught an airplane.
Took the bus to California?
Airplane out of Oklahoma City.
Airplane out of Oklahoma City,
To,
okay.
yeah, California then.
Wow.
But the 17th cab of the 101st A troop, they have their reunion in about June.
Every June?
Yeah. And to this day I haven't made it, but I got a buddy that goes to it along. And he was like a brother to me because we went to AIT together. And then in Vietnam, he was with the tank outfit. And then when they switched us over to that new platoon, that battalion that come in, that's 17 Cab. Well, he volunteered to be one of the squad leaders too, so I had the first squad and he had the second squad.
You were back together, yeah.
And but I still had to take care of him because he never seen combat. See, he was with the tank.
Right.
And the infantry's the one who's on foot all the time, so He, I had to take care of him all that time. And then after I left, he wanted me to extend. He said, stay with me. I said, I'm going to do 6 more months so I can get out. And I said, no, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take a break, and then I'll come back. And during that, after I left, he got wounded 6 times. He says, you should have stayed with me. I would have never got hit. And to this day, we haven't seen each other. So hopefully, he said, I'm going to come to Oklahoma and we can spend some time together, and or maybe one day I get to go to that reunion and see him, you know. But it's just like seeing one of my schoolmates here. It's for the long, I haven't seen him since Chilocco, and that they call it his West Duty.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen him just a while ago when we was at that veterans meal.
Oh, you did? He's
Yeah,
up here.
so I was able to talk to him for about 10 seconds. But anyway, we got a picture with him, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you're going to get together with your friend. That's what I was going to ask you. Have you come to many of the Chilocco reunions?
We come about every other year, and sometimes we come, but not many. I would say about 4 or 5.
And how about other Native American veterans groups? Are you a member of any other veterans groups?
Not really. Just 17 Cap and 173rd. They got one in Lawton, but we haven't really got together with them. So.
Why is it important to you to get together with your Chilocco schoolmates?
Yeah, just to see them, because there's a lot of them that are passing on. And there's ones that I wanted to see. I wanted to make contact with them. They said they just passed away a couple of weeks ago. And then I happened to go see one down in Ardmore, Charles Thompson, and I talked to him about coming to the reunion. I said, if people ask about you, and he said, well, I'm going to try to make it this year. Well, he didn't make it. He died before he could come, but he was pretty sick. So, but that's mainly what I come for, just see some of my the friends and visit. And now our life is in the ministry. I'm a complete different person. So I was talking to one person. He said, I see where your wife preached so-and-so's funeral. I said, yeah. I said, so I've come a long way since then. I said, I'm her backup person in the ministry. So I said, so yeah, but I had to go through a lot to get to where I am, because the enemy was still messing with my mind. And I happened to be in a camp meeting up in Sisseton, South Dakota, when there was a veteran speaking. And he said, there are 3 things that the monks, when they go out to their pagodas to pray, they pray against the GIs, that they would return home, that they wouldn't have no peace, that they would what's the other ones? I wrote them down.
Wanderers.
Yeah, they would be wanderers, and they would be anger. They didn't like the authority part, like police and anyone that was authority. They didn't want to be told by them. So they were praying that way, that they would be loners. And it's true. With a lot of our Vietnam vets, they're loners. We go to the reservations, and they won't listen to nobody. If you haven't been there, you can't tell them anything. We was at that meeting, and they try to talk to those veterans. Go, come on in, come on in. They said, no, not until he gets up there. So they said, okay, come on up, Amos. So I went up there, and I sat at the pulpit and was ministering, and then I told them, come on. They come on under the tent and listen to me. But see, they were still living in the old, listening to the oldies and you know, that music back then. And they were heavy drinkers. not so much as drugs, but and the hard drugs anyway. So, but they listened, but they still needed a lot of help, and that's where the ministry, the one guy from North Dakota, still wants us to come up there because he said a lot of these Vietnam vets, they're old, but I still can't get through to them. He said, but if you come up, you might
But
be able to.
since you went through that and had that change.
Yeah.
So you two got married after you came back from the third tour.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And it was a journey. It was a journey.
Yes. It's a process to deal with the veteran. But he has come a long way. I've come a long way.
You've grown together. Was that really, Amos, the time that you felt like that moment in South Dakota? Is that when you felt like
peace.
I'm going to turn around?
Yeah. And I was a born again Christian, but I was still being tormented by the spirits until I went to that meeting and that guy brought everything out, and then they called me up I went up for prayer, and I told him what the situation was, and he said, okay, it'll be gone now. So they prayed, laid hands on me, and now my dreams are just the opposite, where before the enemy was always chasing me and getting ready to push that bayonet through me. Well, now, if I had him in these dreams, it's the opposite. I got them on the run. So that's not so, so it's easier now. Yeah. But for a while, it was like they were right there in the room with me, trying to drag me into the closet and stuff. But it was but the biggest thing that stands out is that one when I was with the hunting first, Ashaw Valley, I can relate to that, and other vets that were there too, but they was somewhere in the Marines. They came in later.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I had some guys there that I went to school with in Ardmore. These were white boys. And they said, Harjo, whatever you do, don't walk the point in the morning. Because they knew I would walk the point. That's one thing. They said, they're not letting the point man through no more. So if you walk point, you might as well plan on getting a bullet. He said, they're shooting you in the stomach. May not kill you, but it's going to put you down. He said, as long as they can get you out of the field, that's all they want. So I said, okay. I had two guys in my squad that were old, been in country as long as I have. So they said, okay, Harjo, here's what we do. We said, I'm going to walk point for you. So-and-so's going to walk my slack man. And that slack man said, if you walk his slack, and he said, we'll go. And so all three of us old timers, and then all the young guys back there. So that's the way it went.
Taking care of them.
Yeah.
What would you like people to know or remember from your story? What would you like people to remember or think about from your story that you shared today?
I would like for them to really reach out to them because they're still hurt. There's a lot of them out there don't realize that there's help there, even though we got people going around speaking to them. But majority of the time, they're not wanting to go nowhere except where they know where there's booze at and marijuana. And by the time they get around to it, well, their health is so far gone. But even today, there's vets out there. Well, I didn't know that. Nobody told me. So that's what I would like to see get across to a lot of these Native Americans on the reservations that are having problems, that they will reach out to them. And buddy in South Dakota, Pine Ridge, he died of Agent Orange. He was in the Marines. And I kept trying to get him to go to the VA. And so I said, if you qualify, you got Agent Orange, you're going to get 100%. Well, I couldn't get him to go up there. If I was living up there, I could have got him in on it.
Right.
But I said, you come back to Oklahoma, just stay a little while. Let me get work with you and get you up there and get them contacting these people that will help push your paperwork through so you can get your 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I said, then they're gonna take care of your wife. And so, but it didn't work out. He was kind of slow on doing things like that, so he missed out on it. Even though one of his doctors told his wife, said, Agent Orange is the one that took him out. Because he was younger than I.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he said, but he didn't, he was just one of those Indians that didn't want to do nothing as far as work like that, something that was rightfully his, that he didn't pursue it.
He didn't get the claim, yeah. Is there anything else we should talk about before we end?
No, this is easy.
I'm
This
so
because
glad.
it was getting hard there for a little bit, but I was able to take control of my composure and not break down. Because a year ago I had a teacher from the grade school bring her students up to me and I was out front, and I had some of my Vietnam pictures out there, and I told them stories about Vietnam and how different things. And before you knew it, I was breaking down. I was crying, and I looked at the
Well, I want to thank you for your service, Amos. Thank you very much.